Welcome, marvelous makers,
and art appreciators,
to the ArtSpace podcast,
brought to you by Lemon Street Gallery and ArtSpace,
located at 4601 Sheridan Road.
Jump on by your favorite citrus-themed art gallery. Should I stop doing like changing it every time and do stop on in?
No, because I like to see you flustered of what
We're gonna
what verb you're going to use next.
Okay, that's worth it.
Yes. And I am your host, Shelby Nesmith.
And I'm Jake Hoy.
And today we are here having a chit chat with board member here, Lemon Street artist.
But she's not a board member. BORED.
Yeah, I'm not bored.
She's very excited.
She's
an excited member.
Yes.
Sorry,
she's on our board of directors, mister. And she's also a Lemon Street member. Here we have Kristie Matteau with us.
Hello.
Did I say it correctly?
You did. Yep.
Oh,
you got it.
Finally.
Thank you for joining us, Kristie.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor.
Yes.
Thanks for bearing with our silliness. We had a very silly first 30 minutes of this record.
And technical difficulties, as always.
If I can use the word record, because that was part of the problem, was getting it working. But
so, yes.
if you're hearing us, that means it worked.
Hey, I see the numbers going and I see the thing moving while we're talking. So, hey.
I was threatening to like pull out my phone and we'll record it on my phone mic. Like we were almost, no, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but.
We've had a lot of speed bumps today, but we're here and we're glad that you're sticking with us.
And now we're in our happy place.
Yes.
We're talking art with Kristie.
And we have some art going on behind us. So if you hear that, I don't know if you will, we have a stained glass class going on behind us in our classroom. We're in the brick gallery, but you might hear some grinding and breaking of glass.
Yeah,
so.
If you hear a shattering, we don't have an intruder that's here to steal anything. They are just, hopefully, I probably shouldn't jinx us.
Yeah, don't say that.
But we knocked on wood.
Yes.
Did you hear that? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know if you can hear this episode, but hey.
Hopefully. That's the important part.
Yes. So we're going for it.
Although I'm sure we have some listeners that wouldn't mind if my mic was turned down a little bit. I think I a little too silly.
No, we need some silliness after all the madness that we just went through. So we appreciate you. And how's your day been going, Kristie?
Oh, I went to work today. So,
awesome.
It's one of those days. No, it was a great day. I love my jobs. So, yeah.
Yes.
We're recording on a Tuesday, which is an unusual day for us. So, I feel like it was.
The stars did not align, but we're making it work.
It rained today. That was a big news.
That was a big news?
Yes, that was a big news.
It wasn't supposed to, was it?
I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
I usually know weather. So if I'm surprised.
Yeah. If you're surprised, because I did grab my umbrella because this morning I'm like, it looks a little iffy.
I thought it would die before it reached us. I knew there were showers, but I thought they would all kind of crumble before they reached us, but they didn't. They rained and we did not get very much, but something.
Take what you
It's been extremely dry.
Yeah, we mentioned in last episode.
Yeah, it's
we're
still
going through
dry.
a drought.
Yeah, except for today, it rained. But we need like 40 more days like this in a row.
Oh, no, thanks.
And to get rain, you need clouds.
Yes.
And Kristie
nice segue.
does a lot of subject matter around clouds. So,
well, we'll just tie the weather segment right into this.
Yeah.
What's it about clouds, Kristie? What do you like about them?
Good question, because I really didn't know the answer until the other day. Misty said she had a class coming through here and she wanted to know what the symbolism was. And I was like, I don't know what it is. I guess what I was telling Missy was that I grew up in New Hampshire. So I grew up New Hampshire and Vermont, lots of mountains around, topography. So your sky was smaller. So you'd have like these little chunks of sky and sometimes you could see clouds, but you'd see pieces of clouds. But when I relocated to the Midwest 20 years ago, I don't know, I guess the big thing for me, I was like, I'm missing my family, I miss my friends back east, but there was so much sky here. So it was kind of cool just to see all these clouds. So for me, I guess it's just being in Wisconsin or just in the Midwest in general, it's very flat, but you have so much more sky here. And I really appreciated that. So I guess I just really developed this huge fondness for the clouds and for the sky.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally true.
You see like the whole sunset. Where I grew up, it's like you see like this little, like a little tiny triangle in the sky.
Like there's a mountain in the way.
Yeah. I mean, you can look up, but I mean, if you're looking off into the distance, like you're seeing like, a lot of things around you. Whereas here, I'm like, you just see tons of sky. You see these big sunsets.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know, it's pretty cool here in the Midwest.
Huh. My mind is blown. I never thought about that. I guess I've always lived in the middle. Even when I moved to Oklahoma, it's still, it's even flatter there. So yeah, I never thought of that.
I mean, I'm sure if someone asked me like 2 years from now, I'll have a whole different answer, but
And that's okay.
That was my answer then.
Clouds are universal, everybody deals with them. Everybody looks at them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
And they come in all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And colors.
And it's a cycle. It's like a life cycle because, clouds are, it's the water. Water is cool because water can take different forms. It can be a solid, it can be gas, it can be liquid, and it just kind of goes up in the sky. And then when it's time, it just like releases the water back down to the planet. And I don't know.
That's cool.
It feeds the cycle.
Here's a scientific fun fact, okay? This is one I trot out when I'm talking weather with people sometimes. When you see a cloud, what do you think you're seeing? Like what are you seeing when you see a cloud?
Cloud vapor?
You would say vapor?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess, I mean, maybe like, I don't know, a whole bunch of water particles that are maybe too light to follow.
Kristie's on the right track.
Okay.
So common misconception, I guess I should have prefaced this with that. This is a common misconception. Water vapor is invisible. You can't, it's to the human eye. You can't see water vapor. When you're seeing steam coming out of a kettle, that's not water vapor. There is water vapor there, but you just can't see it. What you're seeing is condensed liquid water. So the same with a cloud. It is actual small particles of water that are too small to fall out of the sky. And also ice. There a lot of clouds actually are ice, like small little bits of solid water.
Wow. Is there like dust and stuff in there too? Or?
Yes, absolutely dust also. And I should say there is water vapor. That's why I said it specifically the way I said it. What are you seeing? There is water vapor in the cloud, obviously, but you just can't see it. So.
That's really cool.
Fun fact, science.
I like that. That's
Science. Cool. All right. Now, the art of the cloud.
The art of the cloud.
Yes, the art of the cloud. So you really like to play with colors as well. If you had to kind of summarize a style of your artwork, what would you kind of say that it is? I know it's abstract, but sometimes you play with familiar shapes and textures.
Yeah, different. I think usually when I start a show, it's the month before the show is due. So, because I know I'm working a lot, and I mean, I should make more time for art, but I don't always do it. I have the best intentions, but I'm usually cramming everything together. So what I'm finding is I'll kind of start a certain way, and then as I'm painting, I might blend something, take some of the technique from one of the paintings I'm working on and play with it and add it to another piece. Okay. So I don't know, I like to kind of like test out the different colors, maybe add some different types of techniques, or like drips. I really like drips lately. I like the contrast of like using matte fluid and gloss fluid, because I like part of the painting to look completely flat, so it's like with almost no shine to it at all. And then I like to do some drips down the middle or on the side or wherever I put them, because I don't know, I like how it just kind of like it pushes it a little more, maybe add some depth to it. And then this time I got into some of these drop things. So I did some drops, and it's because I had the color gloss in a bottle, and I keep them in my microwave. And because it keeps it for some reason, it keeps my paints from drying out.
Weird.
So that is a fun fact for people who like to paint, but
another great science.
Stick it in your microwave because those buggers they're airtight. So, I just kind of had it in my microwave, and as I was going through the month, I'm like, oh, this could use some dots to it. And, so, some of the pieces there might have like a red dot. This one has red drips that just randomly kind of like I pulled out of the air at that moment. Yes.
Like a cloud.
Like a cloud. But I do like, I don't know. I guess really kind of start with an image. For me, it's more so color. So I like to think of when I'm thinking of when I'm going to paint, I'm more so thinking in colors than actually the objects or the subject when I'm going to paint, because to me it's more the colors that get inspired, and I find most of my inspiration comes when I'm listening to music. So I'll be like driving home, I'll just be driving back from my boyfriend's, I have my music blaring, blah blah blah, driving on the road, and then boom, some colors hit me, and I'm just thinking maybe some visuals and in my head from these different songs I'm listening to. And that's why usually I choose song titles. I hate titling paintings because that's just like to me, it feels kind of pretentious, like, oh, this is blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It's not the thing that I like to do the most at all. So sometimes I'll ask people like, what would you title this one? Yeah. And I get funny answers. So I'll use like song titles or like some, verses from a song. Or I know one of the paintings, I like wrote some verses from a song in there, and I'm like, oh, I hate this. And I painted over it some more. But for me, that's kind of how the creative process starts. It's more so in color.
Oh, Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I took a color theory class in college, and I thought at the time, I was like, oh, this class is awful. It's so lame. But it was probably the most useful class I had.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of neat because the teacher kept trying to tell us, like, push beyond your boundaries, like use colors you don't like, you know? And that was one of the things where I was like, do I really want to try that? Like that painting over there, I'm like, oh, I use yellow ochre. I'm like, oh, it's yellow ochre. But I'm like, I'm going to try some colors I don't like. And I ended up really liking it. That's one of my favorites. So
I love that color.
Yeah.
me too. I was like, once I put it together, I'm like, oh, I really like that. I like the colors together too. So it's just, I think it's more so when you push yourself to try something different, sometimes you end up with something you really like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of experiment-based work too, and yeah, I love that type of stuff because I mean it's always fresh and something new and exciting as you're moving along through a series. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and if you ever need help titling, I can give you some like
I will-
obscure weather terms. I don't
I'll
know. You
reach
probably
out.
don't do that.
Especially, well, if I do a lot of clouds, I might be like, all right, you know, give me some cloud terms.
That looks like an undulatus asperatus right over there. That's my favorite type of
I
cloud.
don't even know what that is, but I'll have
It's-
to look it up.
It's kind of like a new cloud. Like it's only recently been named.
A new cloud.
I mean, it's not new, but like it's like recently titled.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a very Google it if you're at home. Oh no, I gotta spell it. UNU. It's undulatus asperatus. You'll
Gotcha.
get close and it'll.
sounds
Sound it
cool.
out. Try your best. You're on your own,
I don't
kid.
know how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Link in the description.
Yeah, no, probably not.
I'm not going through that work. Oops.
Nope.
It's a very cool cloud.
Okay.
It's cool.
I'll check it out on my off time.
It's the cool cloud check of approval.
Yeah, from Jake.
That's
Gotcha.
a new segment. Every episode we're gonna do a cool cloud check of approval. Tune in next
Lord.
week to see if I give Mamatis clouds and a check of approval.
I think I've seen those recently.
Yeah, you know that one?
I follow a cloud appreciation society on Facebook. It's pretty cool, but
Yeah.
isn't that the one that's kind of like got like little bubbles, like
Yeah.
dimples?
It's like bubbles that are like falling. That's
Yep.
like on the underside of the cloud. The reason why it's called that, it's named after mammary.
Yep.
Like-
Like,
yeah.
like boobies.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't want to be the one that said
Like
it.
boobies. Yes.
But yeah, that was literally where they got the name from.
Yes.
Yeah, but
That cloud's got knockers.
Well, because even so, mammoth teeth. Mammoths, is it mammoths? Yeah, mammoth teeth. So there's like mammoths and mastodons.
oh, okay, yeah.
And I think the mastodon teeth are shaped kind of like boobs.
Really?
Yeah. So they're different. So mammoth teeths have the teeths. That's the scientific. They're tooths. They have kind of like these little ridges, almost
Yeah.
like a little like a worm was going through the ground.
I've seen
like
them,
yeah.
yeah.
But so mastodon teeth are like they're kind of like these little
Bulbous.
like little bulbous things that come down. So it looks kind of like, you know, like a row of like
Boobs.
6 boobs.
Nice.
I would not have thought they would have different. I
So
thought they were
Google
basically
that.
the same. Yeah.
No, I never thought that until I was working at the museums years ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, no way.
Wow. Well,
Science.
dear listener, you got a
Booby
lot of stuff
teeth.
to Google here when you.
I know.
have
You've
some
got
free
booby
time.
teeth and booby clouds. So
Yeah.
do your homework.
And undulatus asperatus.
Yes.
Man.
All right. We're going to get into some of these questions
Oh, yeah, we got
here.
questions.
Yes. Yes, we have some questions here. So kicking it off, we're going to go into how did you get into art and what are some of your earliest art memories?
Oh gosh. So growing up, I don't know, I've always been making art since I was a little kid. I still have family members that have these, oh my God, all the little projects I used to make when I was a kid, like out of acorns. I used to make acorn people where I would like, my dad used to make model cars. So he had model car glue and those enamel paints. So I don't know, I've probably sniffed way too much model glue in my lifetime as a child. So in the early years when
That
my brain
helps.
cells were forming. But yeah, so I would like go out and find random stuff out and I'd make outside and I would create something, like glue it together and paint it. And my family members were like, thank you so much. And I'd make them for gifts for Christmas and stuff. They were awful, but they loved them. So I did that. I know my dad also is really into woodworking. So he let me use all his tools and saws and wood and everything when I was little.
That could be dangerous.
Yeah, I was using a bandsaw when I was probably
Ooh.
like 7 by myself.
I'm too afraid to use that. Still.
So yeah, and it didn't have, it had kind of a guard on it, but yeah, I remember using a bandsaw. I would cut out these like, you know, I would get these sheets of paper with plans for how to make your little country rabbit, where you would, you know, cut out the rabbit and then I would wood burn around the ears to give it texture, and then I would like paint it and then I would sand it a little bit to make it look worn. So I got into that whole weird country craft thing when I was
Yeah,
little.
yeah.
It was awful, but when I look back, I don't own any of it because it doesn't fit But that was kind of like my early beginnings. My dad was really supportive. He painted a lot when he was younger, but he didn't do a lot of painting when I was growing up. But he gave me, I got to use his whatever paints he had. He has this old art box, this wooden art box where he kept all of his oil paints in and brushes and stuff that I still have, and now my son's going to use when he's in school to keep his art supplies in. So that was kind of cool. I'm like, this came from my father before me.
Handed from generation to generation.
It's a family heirloom. But it's cool because it's like you open it up and it smells of like linseed oil, and there's like, clumps of like little things of oil stuck on there still, which is kind of cool.
Oh, little memories.
Yeah. So I remember that. And then growing up too, just the teachers that I really connected with as a kid were my art teachers. I don't know. I feel like sometimes art teachers can kind of look into your soul and they're like, you're really into painting unicorns, Kristie. Here's another thing to paint a unicorn on. But yeah. So I did have a lot of really bad unicorns that I painted with enamel paint. I remember on cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
no.
I'd give it to people. Here you go. But my teachers would be like, thank you so much. This is beautiful. So maybe it was that positive reinforcement when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, I would say art teachers are definitely a little more in touch emotionally than other. Like my physics professor in college never said, "But how does this integral make you feel?"
Exactly.
Like, no, it was just this is the answer. Moving on.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You're going to cry about it later, and that's okay.
Right.
Take this class again next year.
Yes.
It definitely happened to me.
I had those moments when you're taking a math test and I just start crying because like, I don't know this answer.
No, with art, it's totally different.
Yeah, you just do it.
Right. You can do it, and if it stinks, you're like, oh, it stinks. I'll paint over it.
Yeah. Or just, hey, I was in my feelings when I did it.
Exactly.
You can't write, hey, the answer to this math question is I'm very deep in my feelings right now and writing a reflection emotionally.
Well, you can, but I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, you get a 0.
Well, I got a quick story. So in meteorology school, I was taking a test one time, and this is for like atmospheric cloud physics or something. And one of the questions was like, write a step-by-step on how to solve this thing. And I was like almost out of time, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to write something silly. So I wrote like, go to google.com, type in, how do I solve this thing? And then question mark, and then profit. I like numbered it 1 to 5. It was like a meme or whatever. And I got half of a point. It was a 15-point question, and he gave me minus 14.5. I got half a point for being silly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Silliness does get you somewhere sometimes.
So, yeah.
Sometimes it does.
Maybe you can answer silly questions to math.
Yes.
Depends on your teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Just make sure you wipe off the tears on your sheet before you hand it in.
I don't know. It might get you some pity points.
Right. This looks like tears.
Yeah, just doodled. I couldn't do it, but here's a drawing. But I'm glad you had that support system there, because that's just really important too, getting back to the seriousness of the question. But that's a big thing on this podcast, is establishing like the art teachers when you're growing up, just how important and how valuable they are. All teachers are important, but sometimes the teachers that can kind of reach out to you and really save you on that level, it's so important.
Music too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just gonna say too, you always hear about music and the arts getting cut, those programs getting cut first. And it's kind of weird for me as a society, because when you look back, I mean, I'm into archaeology and anthropology and art history and all that jazz, and art played such an integral role in society, like, from the dawn of time throughout. And now it's just, I mean, I know that art's still important in our culture, but it just doesn't seem to have the same weight. And as we're raising kids like back in, I don't know, maybe in like ancient Egypt, if your kid was like, hey, they're a painter, they're going to do some painting, some pyramid paintings or whatever. The parents were probably so darn proud about them. They're oh yeah, my other son's a scribe, like whatever. Like, but this guy's painting. He's painting, the pyramid walls. So that's kind of the thing that I don't really understand why it has, I don't know, a different meaning in the schools now. Sometimes, I mean, I know some schools are really into the arts and music, but I really feel like that it really shapes a culture, how we interact, because arts and music can really evoke emotions, and it's a way for you to communicate. And there's a lot of people that might not be able to communicate with their words, but they can do it through their art. They can do it through their music, and it's a way for them to express what they're feeling and to kind of like offload and dump some of these heavy emotions. So I think art's more important than we give it for, give the value
definitely.
for.
100%.
And I think that was at the switch into like the Industrial Revolution that really switched that perspective on art of we need to have like more of this production element, and I don't think as a society as a whole, we're still kind of pulling back from that, and it takes a while to see that. But I think personally, that's when I see a big change in terms of the community view on artwork, on artists, and everything in general. Because you go back like in Italy in the Renaissance, they were highly praised and everything, and it's just things really took a turn. So I think we're at a point now too where technology like AI is coming into play, and having these different things line up. It's definitely going to affect our view on art going forward too. So I'm a little nervous to see where that goes, but I don't think like stuff like AI could replace artists or anything. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I love local artists. I love handmade art.
It won't replace it for me.
Oh, well, no.
Oh, yeah, for me either.
Yeah. So, like I said in a long time ago, it's a tool, but I don't think it's going to fully replace something that you sit down and emotionally create with your hands. It's just something that you can really connect over. So,
yeah. And what I do think about AI, though, is that it's helping some people who may not have the ability to paint. Because not everyone, or maybe they can't create the artwork that they really want to make, but they're able to think, they learn the prompts, or they learn ways to describe what they want to see. And it's kind of neat to see how AI can interpret it and create some sort of art. I mean, I know it's based off of other art, and I've talked with friends who are artists, especially graphic artists, that are like so having a hard time with AI. But I do think it is giving a voice to people who might not have that ability, or maybe never picked up a brush, maybe never picked up clay and never tried something out. So it's kind of neat to see how it all works. And there's all kinds of cool stuff that's out there. So, it has its, blessings and curses.
Yeah. I just don't fully replace people, please.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless we all get to kind of like kick it and sit in the sunshine and garden. And
there's a way to do it right.
Yeah, if there's a good way to do it. But
I don't know.
Well, 9 times out of 10, if you ask someone like, if you're retired or something, what do you do? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, oh, maybe make art or do something art-wise. Why can't we do that now, while like make that accessible now, and not when you're retired and you're just bored making art? Like, why can't we just do that throughout our lifespan and just not wait? Oh, I'll do that when I'm retired. Like,
Yep.
So.
And I mean, I think that way too. I'm always thinking about, maybe when someday I'll do this, whatever, when I have more time. But I really do think this is probably the time when you're working and you're stressed out and you're like, you have a life and you're going to school, or you have kids and you're doing stuff. Like, that's when you really need to stop and focus on doing something creative. Like, slow down a little bit, maybe read, maybe get a journal and write about some stuff, maybe get a sketchbook and make some drawings and sketches. It's just a way to kind of get your mind off of that track where you're like moving from one thing to the next and constantly moving forward and forward and forward.
That autopilot. Yeah.
Right. And it's not like it's bad to move forward in your career and stuff. That's all good stuff, but you need those little pauses because, jobs can be tough and life can be tough. So having those pauses where you can just kind of look inward and, kind of focus inside yourself and think about, I don't know. It's very relaxing. I know there's science behind it for like, knitting and crocheting and painting, that it does it reduces your blood pressure. It does all the kinds of different things for you. And I don't have anything to cite, but I know there's science out there that talks about,
I believe you.
Yes, there's science out there that talks about how it really helps you. So I don't know. I think that's the time. But again, I same thing. Like, I always put it off. I'm like, oh, I'll do this. And then I get caught up in everything. And so when I have these shows, it's nice to be like, all right, okay, this is actually pretty cool. And I'm shocked that I, did some of this stuff in my free time, the little bit of free time I had, but it reminds me, I have free time every day.
You can make it work. Yeah.
I can make it work. And I could, if I could do all of these in a month, well, what could I just do if I just did one a week? Like, how cool could that be? So I don't know.
And I'm going through the same thing. I got my show next month as well. And so, I'm definitely trying to see how I could factor it into my day to day. Because I've realized how important it is to keep moving forward. Like, you get this burnout, and that's the refresher, is this artwork is tapping in and everything. So scheduling it in, like, make time for it. As we talked in Joe's episode, you got, if you're passionate about it, you got to make time for it. So, but we've kind of derailed, but we'll get back in there. So,
Everything's a derailment.
Yes. But yes, we love art.
Yeah. So next question. Kristie,
Yes.
who were some of your influences? You touched on this a little bit already, but who were some of your art influences?
I'm going to grab my piece of paper here so I don't forget stuff. Well, for me, growing up as a kid, I was really big into reading mythology, and I was really big into, ancient art and art history. So for me, a lot of the stuff like you would see like Egyptian art, Greek art. I always loved Sumerian art. Mesoamerican art was huge for me too. As a kid, where I grew up in New Hampshire, Dartmouth College was like 30 minutes from where I grew up. And every now and then, like they would take like, the art students that really, really liked art. We would get to go to Dartmouth because in their library in the lower level, they have all these frescoes by Jose Clemente Orozco. And those were so awesome. So we would literally be able to go up there, and then we get like a little program. Somebody would, from the art department there would talk to us, some really smart person will talk to us about art and about Jose Clemente Orozco's his art and his life, and what the themes that he was really getting into. And then we got to draw, and it was just a cool experience for me. So I mean, he was a big one for me. I always liked Motherwell, Helen Frankenthaler. I really love her work, because she did a lot with color, but she also did a lot with kind of varying up her surfaces. So she would use just canvas that was, didn't have any gesso on it. So it was just raw canvas, and it would absorb the oil paints in a different way, which would change the colors a little bit. And she did a lot with drips, which I do drips now, which I don't know if I ever thought of that. Like together, her drips were fancier, but
you're in a drip phase.
I guess I'm in a drip phase. But so I liked her work. I love Adolf Gottlieb's work, Vincent van Gogh. Is it Gogh or Go? Everyone says Van Gogh, but the fancy people say Van Gogh.
People say, "Oh, that's actually wrong."
It's Van Gogh, Kristie.
So I'm not Dutch.
I'm not either.
I can barely pronounce my own name correctly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think. Juan Moreau, I love his work because again, it's just his is always simple color. It's like reds, blacks, and whites, but sometimes whites, black, white. I don't know. It's pretty simple. And then I love tattoos. I love tattoo art. So when I was looking through my Instagram, like, who do I like in art? I've so many different tattoo pages, and I have just one really bad tattoo. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, these are so cool. But I love traditional tattoo art.
Those bold colors.
The bold colors, the stuff that they used to do, the sailor tattoos. There's so many cool things that I love in that. And then here locally, I know in the gallery, like I really like, I know Melanie Becker-Hovey's work. I like Jay Kalani's work. I know the show was like that just happened. I really love the fact that she had these underpaintings and then some cover-ups, which was so cool because you had like a painting peeking through a painting.
And she said she hated that one the most, and I was like, that's the one that I love the most. Like,
I know that was my favorite too, but I was like, I can't. I'm too broke for that one. But that was really cool. Missy Isley Poltruck, I like her work. I know I was talking to her this weekend about one of her angels she had hung up that she had some information written on there. It was just some things like she's really into the the feelings and emotional aspect of her work, which I love that. It's like that's really vulnerable and raw. So she was saying that she really wants people, whoever buys it, to open up the frame and then write their own things in it. I was like, that is so cool. I wish I thought of that. Such a cool idea. I love Betsy Davis's pottery. Betsy's a potter here at Lemon Street. Carly Lyons pottery. I have some of hers too, which I have Betsy's, I have Carly's, and I also have June Ambrose pottery. They all, for me, I'm not a potter. I mean, I love playing with clay, but my stuff never comes out looking great. It looks like a third grader did it.
Oh no.
Which is, it is. It's like weighs 20,000 pounds and it's okay. But they make these beautiful pieces that I love and respect. So for me, I love having those just on my spaces at home where I'm like, oh, this is a really cool piece. And I could never make that.
Aww.
So kind of cool.
Well, we got to sport big bottoms too. So if you got a big bottom cup, hey.
It's big bottom cups.
Yes.
Big bottom cups, you make this rockin' world go round.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So, but yeah, it's definitely a different level of appreciation going into like functional work as well. Cause like this has to stand the test of me using it XYZ amount of times. So, I working in ceramics and everything and being a potter myself, it's a whole different level of production versus like this current show I'm doing with collage and everything, like the mindset and the way you need to design things so differently. So yeah, I feel like I'm using two different halves of my brain. So yeah, it's really fun and really cool and get to see those different perspectives through a similar art form. So
there's this potter I follow on Instagram, and I'm going to forget his name. I know his first name's Roberto. I think it says Village Potter is the Instagram handle, but he makes the coolest. It's just, maybe it's like an amphora or different pottery. And then he draws, he like will hand draw things on there that are just amazing. So maybe it's like, I think he did like a Wu-Tang Clan one. He's done all kinds of cool stuff. Like, and he loves to push like, just really hot topics on his pottery. And he had stuff in the Smithsonian. And I love the fact that he talks about back, he was always kind of put down in school growing up. And, he found his voice through pottery. And it's just, I don't know, it's really inspirational to look at his work, but he's made some stuff that is like person size, like where they build it and they put it together in a giant kiln. I'm like, oh my God, how do you do that? So when I see stuff like that, I'm like, there's no way I will ever make anything like that. And it's just, I have such a huge appreciation for people that think like that and that can really just create these things that are just, I don't know, just so cool.
Oh, awesome. Getting into our next question here, we did talk about, we kind of bundled it all up together with influences and then your favorite artists. So we'll jump into, what is your motivation to create?
My motivation to create.
Deadlines.
I know, I'm like,
that's one of my favorite answers.
Yes, mine is deadlines.
Deadlines. I guess that's probably my big thing is, it's got to be the deadlines. I mean, I've always liked making things. I love to knit. I like to make jewelry. I like to paint. Deadlines for everything I do is huge. Like, at work, I have a grant that's due. I'm like, ooh, okay, so here's the deadline. That grant has to get written. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I live or die by deadlines. Deadlines are huge.
When I've noticed the plate's very full, the deadlines become, that's the big push one.
Because then you're prioritizing. So it's just like you have this lazy Susan in front of you. You got to spin it around and be like, all right, what am I going to pick off of this lazy Susan today? What can I grab and get, put away? And that's what you have to do most of the time. But I also think too, like what kind of inspires me is probably just music. It's just something where I'll be like walking or driving and I'm listening to a song. And then like, again, I'll be like, think of colors or I'll think of something. Sometimes like I'll just, I don't know, they randomly pop in your head. Like you'll maybe have a dream of something. I know that sounds so hokey, but maybe it's like you have a dream and you're like, oh, that'd be kind of cool as a painting or whatever. But
definitely.
But like, it's not like a literal, like you're listening to a song and somebody says blue clouds with red stuff dripping from the bottom, and then you're like, oh, I should paint that. It's like
so. No, there was a song I was listening to the other day when I was driving. It's by My First Aid Kit, and it's called "Stay Gold." And there's this part where they say, I think it's gold turns to gray or gray turns to gold. Anyway, I was like, that could be cool. Like I could do like a gray background, some gold drips, and then some other stuff on there. And that's kind of what I'm winging right now. It's what I'm working on. But it's just sometimes they'll say a color. I'm like, how did I never think of this before? But other times it's just, I don't know. It's just, I think when you're listening to music, you kind of get into this lucid state where you're just kind of thinking or just
like daydreaming almost.
Yeah, daydreaming, kind of in a zone, which is bad to say when I'm driving on, I'm on the highway. I'm like doop-to-doo, but you're just kind of in a flow state, but you're paying attention. Yeah. But yeah, so for me, listening, that big thing for me is if I'm doing like a morning walk, because I'm trying to get out into nature and take those, those mental health walks and stuff. And reconnect with nature. And it's supposed to be really good for you too, because your arms move, and that's what parasympathetic movement's supposed to be good for your, like, I don't know, it's supposed to be calming. Oh. Yeah, I guess there's some science behind that too.
Okay. Like walking is calming?
Yeah, walking is supposed to calm you because when your arms swing, it does something for your brain. And yeah, so I don't know all the science behind it. I was not a science major. So yeah, but it's good for you. But I think because you kind of get into this flow state and, I listen to my music and then I don't know. Again, like I said before, colors may pop into my head, maybe some ideas for something I'm going to paint. Other times is you just wing it. Other times I'll be like, I have to do something, like you said, deadline. I have to make something. I knew I had the deadline to get the painting for the card. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to make? And I started working on something. I hated it. I was like, this is garbage. So then I started another one and I was watching a scary movie and it's the one that ended up in the card. Cause I'm like, I need one for the card. And it was like at night, I'm like, all right, so I threw a bunch of black on there and I was kind of going with it. And I was watching this horror movie and I was like, after I finished it, I was like, oh, well, this was the darkest piece of everything I finished. I'm like, because I was watching this scary movie. But yeah, it was something like the possession of Deborah Lang or the taking of Deborah Lang.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
I don't.
You probably won't watch it because you don't like
just
scary.
Hearing about.
Yeah, it was kind of slow moving until the very end. I'd say the last 10 minutes, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like I couldn't stop watching it. Like I couldn't paint. I had to stop painting. I'm like, what's going on? This is so crazy. And then
I think I know that one at the end. It's about an older lady, isn't it? Yep.
They think she
with
has
the kid.
Yeah, they think she has dementia, but she's actually possessed.
Yes.
So
I've seen that one. Yes,
yeah, that was kind of crazy. And because my grandmother had dementia, and I was like, oh, should I watch this? I'm like, maybe I'll watch it. Then I was like, oh, this is terrifying.
Okay, and that also sounds like incredibly sad. Like,
Yes.
in a whole different type of horror, like
Well,
existential dread.
Right. But at the end of the movie, you find out she never had dementia.
Okay.
And then she ends up being normal-ish.
So it's actually a happy ending.
Ish.
Kind of.
Not really.
Yeah.
By horror movie standards.
Right. By horror movie standards, I mean, I guess it's ish. It's okay. It's not that happy.
Better than they all died.
Oh, gosh. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to have a little word from our sponsors.
Hello, ArtSpace podcast fans. This is Joseph from Draw Joseph Studio. Most of you know who I am. I have this fabulous world-class draw studio up in Racine at the Racine Business Center, 1405 16th Street. My studio is real easy to find. It's on the first floor on the east side, right inside the tunnel. If you know the Racine Business Center, it's a big, tall brick building, and there's a big Von Schrader on the east side of the building, and the tunnel's right underneath the Von. So come in the tunnel, first studio to your right. And on every Tuesday afternoon at 5:30, the gates open up, and at 6 p.m., I have a model posing. You're invited. It's free. Tip the model. Hope to see you there.
And we are back.
Woohoo.
Back again. Thanks for staying with us.
Yay.
We're here to talk some more art. We got Kristie with us.
Yes.
Am I too chill? Was that
No.
very chill?
It was a little ASMR-y.
Oh, yeah.
We're back.
We were talking about that, I think, on the last episode with Ellen, right?
Yeah.
How we were going to start the whisper cast.
You're going to do a whisper forecast.
I do the forecast, but I whisper it.
But you whisper it.
Partly cloudy. I think I said that exact same thing
Yeah.
last week. So
Just
sorry to
put
repeat
out
myself.
a little whispery forecast.
It rained today.
Yes.
That could be your thing. That could be the whispering meteorologist.
Put it on Patreon. There you go.
That's going to be my TikTok.
I'll get the filter set up for you and everything. So
Oh,
whisper. Yes.
get hyped, folks.
Oh gosh. Moving into our questions. If time and money were no object, what is your dream project?
Goodness. So I think if time and money weren't an object, I would like to do some kind of installation. I always see those, and those are so rad, but it's one of those things where I feel like you need so much time, especially if I did I love fiber arts, and if I could do something that would integrate like giant knitting or I don't know, some kind of cool stuff with art, with painting, I don't know, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess I've lived under the shoe of time and money being an object,
Ever present.
it's ever present. So it's just, for me, it's always like I've always had to work, and I have a kid in college now, so I'm working even more. And so, I guess I mentally can't conceive time and money not being an object. So I'm like, if I could just do whatever, I don't know. I mentally can't go there yet. So,
okay.
Yep.
Well,
We're gonna jump right into educate Jake here. What is an installation? Like, what does that mean?
Oh, well, an installation is literally you have a space and then you build stuff inside of it. I mean, you can hang stuff from the ceiling. It can come from the wall. I mean, I've seen stuff where there's crazy installations where it's like they have red thread. I don't even know the people's names, but I've seen these things all over
Is this
social
at
media.
like a gallery or a museum or something?
Yeah, at a gallery or museum, someone comes in and just builds something in the space that is just totally weird and just hangs there. So that's kind of cool for me because it's a mixture of sculpture and kind of performance art in a way.
Yeah, and it's around you.
Yeah, it's around you. Sometimes
I'm picturing it. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the spaces, sometimes you have to walk through stuff.
Yeah.
I know Milwaukee Art Museum has had some things like that where they have, it's almost like a little, I think of it as the meteor wall because it's all these little rocks that are kind of hanging, and you can take a picture in front of it or behind it, and it looks kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But stuff that kind of hangs in your space like that, it's just, I don't know, it's a mixture of maybe a little physics mixed with your art. And then, you have to have the right materials because, stuff could break. If you're hanging up rocks, they can break. And so I don't know. Those to me, I think are so cool but I always feel like it must take so much time. Then there's also, if you've seen the people, I mean, this is my style, but where they put like garbage together and they kind of paint on it. And if you stand a certain way, you're like, it's Picasso's face or whatever. But that's not my style, but I've seen things like that. So that's another kind of installation-y type of thing, but
big and impactful. And I think that pairs well with your strong colors that you want to do as well. So yeah, it's like, hey, you can't ignore my artwork. It's all in this room.
Right. You have to walk through it. You have to walk around. So it's just so cool when you see those types of things. And I've seen some cool cloud installations. So oh my gosh, they're so cool. Where, I don't know, where they have like the clouds that like, they have these like optics, like fiber optics inside, and they can light up and look like they're storming, which that is way cool. So I would love to do something like that maybe, but you know, if time and money were no object, I would totally do something, I don't know, maybe atmospheric like that.
An installation level. All right.
You had me at cloud looks like it's storming.
Hey, that would be kind of neat.
I'm sold.
Alrighty.
Okay, well, we got another question. I flipped my sheet over, so I didn't have it right, even though I should know these questions by now. We ask them every episode.
Yeah, we do.
No, that's
It's like your 40th time asking.
40. This is episode 40. We never said anything. That seems significant.
Yeah,
it's a big even number.
You're in your 40s.
I'm yeah.
Not you guys, literally, but your show's in its 40s.
Getting close.
Your show's in a protected class now because 40 and over is now age discrimination. So,
wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We should probably cut that. That sounds dumb.
No.
we're
a little bit of the day job coming on.
I know a little bit of HR flowing in there for you.
We're going to use that.
Yeah. 40 and over.
That might play to our advantage.
It's important to know that.
We're over the hill.
Yes.
Well, anyways, our next question actually is, what is the funniest comment you've heard about your art?
Oh gosh. I guess, I mean, I know we talked about this earlier, and I guess I'll roll with this one because it's not, like I said before, it's not necessarily, it's funny now that I think back on it, like, oh, my life is funny. But so I remember back in the day, I was working in an art gallery. I was maybe a couple of years out of college. It was called the Art Post. It was this cool little gallery in, upstate New Hampshire. One of my mentors, Carolyn Bardos, she was the owner of the gallery. She rocks, and we still stay connected through social media. She's an artist. It was like the most beautiful place to go because like I would go to work every day and she'd be like, let's go outside and paint. It was like, it was the best job you could ever have at a school, and being into art, I was just like, seriously? So we would go outside, we would paint, she would make food for us. Like she would cook, I don't know, we would eat like bread with anchovies and she'd have wine. And I was just like, how is this my job? It was amazing. So, and we would just paint and make art. So anyways, I had a show there. It was part of a group show. And a lot of these artists that I was with, they're all like, fancy real artists. I mean, I guess in my whole life, I've never considered myself a real artist because I'm like, I just do it for fun on the side. But there were some of these fancy people that were professional artists. And I remember, so I had this room where I had my pieces up. And for me, it was a big deal because my dad was helping me build my frames because, I was in my early 20s. I had 2 pennies to rub together. And my dad's like, oh, let's make some frames together. So he literally took the dimensions of all the pieces I painted and he made frames for everything, just went in the garage. And it wasn't just like, here's like a little, rectangle outline. It was like he was building stuff on there. He's like, oh, if we can get some like a string of pearls, like little pearls, and we glue it here, it's going to look like texture. He made some really cool frames. Cool. Yeah, I still have them actually in my house, which is kind of neat. So anyways, it was a really cool thing for me. Big deal. First ever big, gallery show thing. So I remember being in the room, people walking around looking at artwork. And at the time, this guy walks through and I'm standing there, and he's just like looking at it and frowning, and I'm like, hey, do you have any questions, like what do you think of this? He's like, oh, I really don't like this. I was like, oh yeah. So then he goes off and talks about everything he doesn't like about it. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, do you work here? I'm like, yeah, but I'm the painter. And he was like, no. Yeah. And then I ended up marrying that guy, which I should have known was the red flag there. But anyways, so yeah, that was he
didn't know you were the painter when he was saying it?
He didn't know.
He thought you were just like, hey,
he thought I was just some,
rando
that worked there. And he's like, oh yeah, this one's, and then he kind of was waxing pretentiously about art and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. So I made that. So thanks. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, but then, later down the line, someone kind of got us together on a date and then we ended up getting married. But then we got divorced, so.
Well, I'm glad you could work through that.
I know. Well, it's just, I guess I should have known back then, but I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I mean, I can take constructive criticism.
But there's a difference between a critique and just straight on doo-dooing on it. So
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't. I can't even remember what the piece was either, but it was funny. So,
yeah, it's okay. You're on to bigger, better things. So.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our next question here. What are some of your thoughts about the local art community? What are the strengths that you want to highlight? Any ways that we need to improve the art community? Anything that you want to see in the art community?
Yeah, I guess, I know, thinking about this one, I feel like our art community, like we're starting to come back together again. I think COVID really kind of drove a wedge because it kind of pushed us all to our homes and we weren't really gathering. We weren't coming to shows as much. And plus too, like I think as an artist or as artists, it kind of put us into a funk. I mean, like the world was falling apart. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone now, they're kind of just getting back into the state of making art. Some people I think probably went nuts and made tons of art. Yeah. Whereas other people were like, ooh, I'm just not feeling it right now. Mm-hmm. So I think right now I feel like we're getting this rebirth where we're getting more people are coming to the openings, more people are able to go out and, get involved in the arts again. So I'm loving seeing our classes coming back. Mm-hmm. An area that I think we could work on as artists is just finding ways to network and get together with each other because it's nice when you're surrounded by other creative people. I mean, I know for me, when I'm around other people and like they're making something and I'm making something, you get those sparks and you get ideas. And it's just kind of cool to see somebody else making art too, because it makes you think, ooh, what if I tried the color like that color? Or maybe I tried techniques similar, or maybe you guys talk about it like, ooh, I don't know. There's those different connections that happen. Mm-hmm. But I also think if we could find a way to get younger people involved. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think of sometimes, I know we have all the colleges, we have Carthage, we have Parkside, and we have Gateway, and we have students that are making art. And so these kids, they're in college, they're making amazing art, and it's shown at the colleges or at the universities. And we might not necessarily know about it. We might not see it. I would love to see a way for us to get more involved. So like, the older artists or just, people who are professional artists that have been making art and that, getting together with students because they're going to graduate and go out into the world, and like what kind of guidance can we give them? What can we tell them about, what our journey's been like? So I think being able to kind of like get the generations to come together, it's just huge. I mean, and not everyone paints the same. Like, the stuff that I'm making is different from the stuff that, other artists are making that Diana does. Like our work is different, but I would love to talk to Diana about her process and her creative process, or any artist. So I think if we could get more youth involved and where we could connect, as galleries like Lemon Street and the other galleries in town, if we can connect more with Parkside, if we can connect more with Carthage, I think that would be huge because I think not only are we going to learn some stuff because these students are learning techniques and maybe they're learning how to use different materials or medium that we maybe have never tried. Right. They can teach us stuff. We can teach them things. And it's just a really good exchange. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I do think art market, when Lemon Street has art market, for me, I love that because you have the opportunity to see different artists that might not be at the gallery. Maybe they're considering it, but they haven't joined yet. But it gives you that opportunity to kind of meet other people and to see other artists and what they're doing. I don't know. I think I rambled there, but I really feel if we could find a way to get more artists working together. Mm-hmm. I know when I first moved to Kenosha, the mayor's youth employment in the arts program, that was something that I thought was so cool. And that was my first job when I moved to Kenosha. We made community murals, but they also did mosaics and they painted trash cans as well. So it was a project where, youth from the schools, I think they were at-risk youth, but they were interested in art. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say that and have kids be like, I was part of that and I wasn't at risk. I mean, we're all at risk.
Yeah. True.
But I mean, I remember, so it was like, youth working with professional artists or with artists and to create art. And it was a great project because it really kind of blended. It gave kids like a way. They got paid. They were making art that was going to be hung in the community. I mean, you can still see it today. I know that building that was torn down recently had a mosaic on it.
Yeah, the Civic Center building on 56th and Sheridan.
Yeah, so I know they had a big mural, but it's just one of those things where the whole community kind of came together. But even high school artists, if we can get kids from high school too integrated into things we're doing. And I know that kids take classes here, but I don't know if there's a way. I know right now that there's a push for more arts type things in Kenosha. And I'm excited for our future as we move forward with these new projects because I don't know, I feel like the arts can make us stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Only make us stronger.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with what you said about the colleges, especially. It feels like they're in a little bubble, and we are too, I think. And we need to pop that bubble.
Yes. Right. We need to pop that bubble and just kind of like, just work together because, I mean, and that could be something too for us in Lemon Street. We can, learn, we can figure out the opening schedules at the Parkside Gallery and the Carthage Gallery. And I don't know if Gateway has gallery shows too, but if they do, like, we should just all try to go there and mingle, meet the artists. I don't want to call them kids. They're youth. They're like, young adults. But I really feel like if we can find a way to connect, it's a great way for us to like connect with other talent. So I don't know. I feel like it's a good thing because, as youth are growing up, they're going to try to figure out, well, how do I do this on my own? And I know there's more resources now with like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. But I really feel like for us, like, as artists, we can really serve as mentors. We can give them, kind of our best practices, what worked, what didn't, how to work 2 jobs and try to bang out some artwork in a month. It's those types of things where, how to make it work and how to keep art in your life.
And collaboration, it's going to help you too. They're going to bring something, maybe they know AI art like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
And you never even thought about this, but you chatting with them, you go and get inspired, So it goes both ways. I was thinking the other day about like with this podcast, like I was thinking if even one person listens to an episode and goes, "Oh, that's an interesting idea. I want to try something," and then it makes it all worth it. That's it right there. Yep. Just one person. So it's all about inspiration, collaboration, and a rising tide lifts all ships.
Ah,
yeah.
One of my catchphrases.
Yes.
and I think too, when it comes to art, I think at times we have to be less snooty about it.
Oh, 100%.
Break down the walls.
Yeah, break down the walls because there's so many things that are art, but we might be. I know there's that division between arts and craft, and I always hate that because it's art. It's all art. You're being creative. You're being artistic. So I think that's a big one too, is like trying to be less snooty because there's so much stuff out there that is so cool. And if we're always constantly thinking like, oh, it has to be like, in a frame in a gallery, it doesn't. Art doesn't have to be in a frame in a gallery. Maybe someone made a really cool scarf. Maybe somebody, maybe they make jewelry out of like gears they find. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do that's creative. That's artistic.
Yeah. And if you have a closed mind about it, you're missing out. You're shortchanging yourself by not exposing yourself to an interesting idea that could change your life for the better.
Absolutely. Yep.
And touching back on the mentorship thing, I know we're a little close-lipped on that because we are working on a mentorship program. So
awesome.
Yes. But we're definitely on that track and working with Parkside and everyone, just waiting for the semester to end. And so the professors have a chance to take a break and figure out what direction they want to go in and everything. So we've got a mentorship program in process. So yes, I think it's a great way to support everyone through that process because when you're in school and everything, you have support of the teachers. And I remember getting shoved out of college and like, what do I do and where do I go for these things? And I actually went to the art market and that's where I first went. And then Beth found me and was like, hey, teach a class. And so it's a small move, but it can lead to bigger things. And I think it's so important to have those steps along the way. And even if we are just a stepping stone, say you're in this gallery, but you move on to somewhere big in New York, it's still that step that led you to your big moment. So they're just all important. And I'd like to create more of those and make them more accessible to people. So
the moral of the story is go to the art market on June 18th.
Support
17th?
So exciting.
18th.
Yes.
Yeah, it is 18th.
June 18th, third Sunday of every month.
And you may have an enlightened experience.
Yes.
Don't want to overpromise.
Yeah. There's a lot of artists there. I think we're at about like 60 artists at every date. So there's going to be such a wide range of different artwork in between like 3D art, 2D art. We've got so much going on over there. We also have some live figure drawing. So if you've never had the ability to check out figure drawing, Draw Joseph will have a tent there. And so you can draw from the figure. It'll be draped. And sometimes you just need to try something out to see if you like it. So
Yeah, you never know.
yeah,
You
so
might discover something new.
yes,
True.
so we're trying to make some things more accessible, and get a good slice of the artistic community and what we have to offer, and so and where we can support where we can support. So
And if you're listening to this the day it comes out, tomorrow you can come to the reception for Kristie's show.
yes, come out and support.
Yep.
Please do.
You can see my work along with Joan Haas's watercolors. Then we also have Diana Becker has her paintings here as well, and she works in acrylics. Does she do oils as well?
No, just acrylic.
Just acrylic. I mean, she has a lot of still lives. So if you're into florals, there's so many different paintings of flowers and
fancy
trees.
frames.
With fancy frames too.
She goes all out with her frames. She likes that to be part of the presentation of her work. So
And
very ornamental.
I feel like Diana's probably one of the catalysts for the gallery for Lemon Street starting up, because Melanie Becker-Hovey, that's her mom. So when she was first starting out this gallery, I mean, I shouldn't speak for her. She's teaching a class right next door. But
she mentioned it in her episode. So
she did?
Yeah.
Okay. I
You're
have
all
to go
good.
into it, but I just remember I remember when I first came to Kenosha, I was like, oh my gosh, there's this cool gallery here. And she told me how, she's an artist, her mom's an artist. She grew up in an artistic family, and it was really like she felt the need to make the space, so that way the community art could be celebrated and up on the walls. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, because she's 95 and she paints every day still. So
That's so cool.
Truly an inspiration.
Yeah.
yes, and
So if you can come on the
Yes.
10th, that's probably tomorrow, unless you're listening to this later, in which case you can't come. But if you can, stop on
6
by.
to 9 p.m. We'll have amazing boxed wine, and I get to bring some of the refreshments. I'm bringing boxed wine, and
And you can talk with the
veggie
artists.
platters. You can talk to us. We can tell you a little bit about our pieces.
Try not to insult them to their face about their pieces.
please don't.
Right.
Word to the wise.
If you want to talk smack, just look at our artist statements first to make sure you don't talk smack to the actual person.
Yeah, they have photos, headshots.
We have photos
on
up so that way you can know. Oh, I'm not going to complain to this one about.
They have a
painting.
name tag on. I probably should.
Yeah, I'll avoid this person. Yeah.
But that's another thing too. Having artist talks before shows come down, I think that'll be really nice, because I mean, you just have an artist statement, and then at receptions, you sometimes feel like you can't approach the person because they're visiting their friends and family that are showing up and blah blah blah, and you feel like you can't necessarily start a dialogue in that setting. So trying to have artist talks to really break down the work and everything, and make those available to artists that are having a show if they want to have an artist talk. So
That is kind of a cool idea. I like that idea. I've seen some of those in the past, but but if you are here and then tomorrow night, be weird and come talk to us.
Yeah.
Don't feel weird. Don't
Yes.
feel weird. Make it or you can make it weird and be like, "Hey, I like that painting. Let's talk about it." Or I really don't like this. Can we talk about this? I don't. If someone says that to me, I'd be like, let's talk about it. Or I'll be like, yeah, I really didn't like that one either. But
And if you're too
I gotta get it done.
shy, it'll be up until the 25th. So
Right.
stop on by.
yeah, have a peek at it and take a look. So I think we're wrapping up this podcast. Is there any place people can follow your artwork or anything you want to shout out? I know you're just getting back into the swing of things. So
yeah, I have my artwork here at Lemon Street.
Lemon Street
That's pretty
Gallery.
much it at Lemon Street Gallery. You can see it here, for the next exclusively for this month. And then I'll have like pieces that are up sporadically because they do change over every month. Other shout outs.
yeah, just yay local artists.
Yay, local artists. I mean, I could plug my work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah. So, so I have two different jobs. One of my roles is the executive director of Kenosha Community Media. We are a nonprofit organization, and we work with organizations, nonprofit, for-profit. We work with individuals, with students, and we provide videography education. We do provide videography services. We'll go out and video community events. We'll teach students how to record their history project in front of the green screen, and how to edit it, and how to edit their sound and use the editing software. Maybe how to use iMovie because they have an iPhone and that's how they record stuff. So we do that. We'll work with students and who are working school projects or just for fun. Maybe they have a YouTube channel. We also loan out equipment. So if people want to use a professional video camera, we for free will loan out equipment, which is I think the wildest thing.
Yeah.
That people can be like, okay, I'm going to take this professional camera and go whenever shoot whatever crazy film I'm going to do. So it's kind of neat that we do all those things. So we have the educational component, but then we also, it's that real community message. So we get people onto our public access station channel so people can get on that. We put things on our Roku channel. It goes on our website, on our Facebook page, on our YouTube, on our Instagram. So all kinds of cool information gets out through there. My other job is Kenosha Achievement Center, which also rocks. I've been there for many years. And KAC, we do our main, I think our main mission or goal is to empower people of all abilities. So I do HR and write grants for them, and it's a great organization. We've been around for almost 60 years. So it'll be 60 years next May.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. We serve over 4,000 people every year, and I think we have a great team. We have a lot of great people working with us. So
Yeah.
Shout out to KAC.
Yeah,
I
shout
work
out
with
to
them
KAC.
directly
As I was
at
going
my
to say,
job.
so in Jake's job, because he works at the visitor center at the rest area off of 165, and we do the maintenance and the groundskeeping there. So, if I go over and visit staff, I see Jake.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen you there yet. Have I seen you there?
I don't think so. I've seen other people from KAC.
Yeah, I know. I haven't been there. I'm sure they're like, why don't you go here? Why don't you come and visit us more, Kristie? I mean, I should be like, it's good. It means you don't have any HR issues.
Yeah.
So
Don't really want to
probably a good
visit.
thing,
Yeah.
right? Do you want to see me?
Oh, by the way, there's something I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, so I don't know, two great organizations that I work for too.
Oh,
But that's, I always think of it too. When I think about arts and stuff, I never really consider myself an artist because I work, I work and I paint when I have free time. But I think that's kind of the big thing for me is like, anyone can be an artist. Anyone can be creative. Like you could do your 9 to 5 or your 9 to 7 or whatever, like depending on what kind of job stuff you have going on. But if you make some time to do something creative, that's awesome. And celebrate that because maybe you're making music. Maybe you're like, I don't know, maybe you're baking. Maybe you're making maybe some people make really cool cakes. These are all different things that kind of push your creativity. And that's where I feel like all of us as individuals really need to kind of like work that muscle sometimes because that muscle kind of really helps you in so many ways that you might not even know.
Oh,
Here, here.
Yes, that was so nice. Love that.
Very
And-
well said.
Yeah, Lemon Street, we love the KAC as well. We've partnered with them and everything, doing some kind of like I wouldn't say directly art therapy, but we've done stuff in the clay studio with them, and it's just so wonderful to connect and partner like that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, so-
And I always see the stuff whenever our, program participants come back from Lemon Street Gallery, everyone's pumped. Everyone's so excited because they're like, look at this. Like they I think we had a group of people who made vases for around the holidays, and it was so cool where they were like pressing it with like different textures underneath. And what I love about Lemon Street's clay studio, I feel like this is something that I don't know if you guys probably talk about on the podcast all the time, but
Not enough.
okay, so for me, I feel like that is like the hidden gem
Yeah.
of Kenosha because you can come to our clay studio. All you have to do is buy your clay, and it's what, $10?
$3 a pound.
$3 a pound, people. That's like a crazy steal. You can come in, buy your clay. That means, and while you're buying the clay, using the clay, you can use all the tools in the studio. There's potter's wheels, there's glazes, there's all these different tools. You can add texture, you can do all kinds of stuff. Pretty much like you could learn pottery and not have to buy anything except for clay. And then we fire it all here for you. It's just,
Glaze it.
yeah, it's amazing. It's such an asset. And I don't think people really know that it's here. Maybe they know, maybe they don't know, but it's so easy to use. Now I know for children, are there certain days that you can bring your kids here for that? Is it Sundays still?
We're still a little loose on that with the COVID rules and everything. So normally like Sundays for younger children, but they need to be attended and watched because there's sharp
Closely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there's,
sharp
like,
pokey things.
Sharp pokey things and the wheels can spin and stuff. And plus too, it's nice to like, I don't know, for the kids to be with their parents, just they can show them how to make stuff. So
Yeah. So usually it's on Sunday. It loosens up on the age range, but like from day to day, we normally, if you're like 10 or under, definitely being accompanied by a parent if you're down there. So, I'd even say 12 and under accompanied by a parent because we've had after school programs that have been crazy. So, so yeah, 14, you could probably be down there by yourself. I think that's fair to say.
how many people do you think you could fit in the clay studio for like a class?
For a class, the most I've had in a hand building class was 12.
Okay. So like, let's say you're a local corporation or you're a local business and you want to do team building, you should probably
Hit us up.
yeah, hit us up, hit up with, connect with Shelby because what cool team building could that be? I'm sure that Shelby can coordinate an instructor to work with your group. You guys can do some team building stuff in between. I mean, how fun is that? You guys can create some kind of project. Maybe it's a project you'll display at your organization.
That'd be so cool.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
And then you make a donation to Lemon Street for it.
Yes.
Seems like a good idea.
It's a win-win.
Do it.
You should do that. It's good team building. People and create. It's that whole creative thing. It loosens your team up, especially if your team is having a creative block, or maybe they're like not getting along. It kind of forces people to kind of like work together and
Sit them in a corner and say, "You make up."
right. There's no trust falls here, but you could,
no falling on the premises,
no. But
please.
you can create something together as a group, which could be a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode. So yes, go support those organizations that Kristie works at, because they're both wonderful. And support Lemon Street, obviously, with her work being here. But you can listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We've got Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to us, and our very own YouTube channel as well. So give us a like, give us a follow wherever you're participating on those platforms. And if you can give us a review or a rating of any kind, that would help us out a lot.
Yes, we want to hear from you. Engage with us.
Yes.
We want to thank our sponsor, Draw Joseph.
Yes.
From Draw Joseph, and for helping us out for all these episodes. We want to thank the band, Would You Kindly, for doing our theme song.
Yes, and you can follow us on social media as well. We're on I already did the platforms. Why am I doing the
Do it
platforms?
again. Tell them. They need to know.
On Instagram at the ArtSpace Pod, and on Facebook, the ArtSpace Podcast, as well as our Facebook group, The Marvelous Makers and Art Appreciators, where you can stay in touch with all art things going on in the area. So it's really fun. There's so many ways that you can get involved, check out what we're doing, and just tap into the art community. We're trying to gather them all in one spot and just be all together like a little happy family. But so yeah,
You should be part of that family.
yes, we invite you. We cordially invite you to get involved. So yeah, I think that wraps it up for this episode, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Depression, addiction, the thrill that you seek. Our restlessness cages the fire we need. We're here to inspire the wild and the